A millionaire was about to become infertile. He paid 10 virgins to have his children in search of the perfect heir. But 9 months later, something happened that will blow your mind. If you liked this story, don't forget to subscribe to our channel and let us know which city you're watching from. The morning sun filtered through the floor-to-ceiling windows of the penthouse office atop the Morgan Tower in Manhattan. Inside, Harrison Morgan stood with his hands clasped behind his back, gazing at the sprawling city below. At 42, he possessed everything money could buy. A global empire spanning technology, pharmaceuticals, and real estate, valued at over $60 billion. Yet the document on his desk threatened to unravel the very foundation of his existence. "Mr. Morgan," Dr. Elaine Reynolds' voice broke the silence. "There's no easy way to put this. The tests are conclusive. Within 6 months, possibly less, you'll no longer be able to father children." Harrison didn't turn around. His reflection in the glass revealed no emotion, though his knuckles whitened as he tightened his grip. "And there's nothing to be done? With all the advancements, all the research my company funds?" His voice remained steady, betraying none of the turmoil within. "I'm afraid not. The condition is degenerative and accelerating. We can harvest and freeze sperm now, but even that presents challenges given the current quality." Harrison finally turned, his steel blue eyes meeting the doctor's. "Leave the reports. I'll need privacy." Once alone, he opened the carved mahogany box on his bookshelf, an heirloom passed through 5 generations of Morgans. Inside lay a letter, yellowed with age, written by his great-grandfather. Harrison knew every word by heart. "To each Morgan son falls the sacred duty of preserving our bloodline. Without descendants, all we build crumbles to dust. Remember always, legacy is immortality." Harrison had made the same vow at 16 when his father died, leaving him the sole heir to the Morgan name. Now, after decades building the empire into something his ancestors couldn't have imagined, he faced the prospect of being the last Morgan. Unacceptable. 3 weeks later, Harrison sat at the head of a conference table in his private estate outside Boston. The 45-acre compound, with its Georgian-style main house and state-of-the-art security, offered the perfect isolation for what he was about to propose. "Thank you all for signing the confidentiality agreements," he addressed the 7 people seated before him, renowned specialists in reproductive medicine, genetics, and psychology. "Project Legacy begins today." Dr. Reynolds, now appointed Chief Medical Officer of the project, distributed tablets containing detailed briefs. "What you're proposing is," Dr. Nathan Reeves, a leading geneticist, paused as he scrolled through the document, "ambitious, to say the least." "I don't pay for opinions on feasibility," Harrison replied coolly. "I pay for results. 10 candidates selected based on optimal genetic compatibility, intelligence, and health markers. 10 potential Morgan heirs. The facilities are being prepared as we speak." "This goes beyond standard reproductive procedures," cautioned Dr. C. Sharon Chen, the bioethicist Harrison had included for appearance's sake. "The psychological screening alone." "Will be thorough and comprehensive," Harrison interrupted. "These women will be well compensated, 20 million each upon successful delivery, and another 10 million for the first 3 years of child rearing. Everything will be contractually sound." "And the candidates?" asked Dr. Reynolds carefully. "How do we proceed with selection?" Harrison nodded to Bradley Wells, his chief of security and longtime confidant. "Mr. Wells has already compiled a preliminary list based on my specifications. Women between 21 and 30, exceptional health profiles, IQ above 140, no family history of genetic disorders, psychological stability, and," he paused, "no previous sexual partners." An uncomfortable silence fell over the room. "You want virgins?" Dr. Chen asked incredulously. "I want purity of intention," Harrison corrected smoothly. "Women without complicated romantic histories who can focus entirely on this project. This isn't about prudishness, it's about commitment and clarity." He continued before anyone could object further. "The east wing of the estate is being renovated as we speak. Private suites, medical facilities, nutritional services, entertainment, every comfort and necessity. The candidates will live here throughout the pregnancy and initial child-rearing period. And they'll be isolated the entire time? Dr. Julian Frost, the psychologist, looked concerned. Not isolated, protected, Harrison clarified. They'll have each other for companionship, plus full medical and support staff. Internet access will be monitored but available. This isn't imprisonment, Dr. Frost. It's exclusivity. Harrison stood, signaling the meeting's end. You have 1 week to review the protocols and suggest refinements. After that, recruitment begins. I expect the first candidates to arrive within 30 days. As the team filed out, Harrison gestured for Bradley to remain. There's one more position we need to fill, Harrison said once they were alone. Someone to oversee the domestic staff for the main house, someone discreet who won't ask questions. Bradley nodded. I'll handle it personally. Someone temporary, I assume. Yes, the fewer permanent connections to this project, the better. 3 days later, in a modest apartment in Dorchester, Olivia Winters stared at her sister's medical bills spread across the kitchen table. At 28, Olivia had already weathered more storms than most people face in a lifetime. After their parents' accident 4 years ago, she'd become both sister and guardian to Emma, now 22 and battling a rare autoimmune disease. The latest treatment had drained their savings, and Emma's condition required constant care. Olivia's job as an administrative assistant barely covered rent, let alone the specialized medications. Her phone rang, displaying an unknown number. Ms. Winters, this is Sandra Powell from Elite Staffing Solutions. I'm calling about your application for the household management position. Olivia straightened. She'd applied weeks ago but had given up hope. Yes, of course, thank you for calling. I'm pleased to inform you that a client has expressed interest in your qualifications. It's a temporary position, 6 months with possible extension, managing household staff at a private estate. The salary is exceptional, $15,000 monthly with accommodation provided. However, Sandra's voice lowered slightly, the position requires immediate availability and absolute discretion. Olivia glanced at Emma, who was sleeping on the couch, fragile and pale. How immediate? She asked. 3 days. The position also includes comprehensive health insurance from day one, which would cover dependents. Olivia's heart raced. I accept. Just like that. Don't you want to know more details? I'll need to bring my sister. She requires medical supervision. There was a pause and the sound of papers shuffling. That might be arranged. The estate has medical facilities on site. Let me consult with the client and call you back. An hour later, it was confirmed. Olivia and Emma could move into a cottage on the estate grounds. Emma would have access to the medical staff when needed. One final thing, Sandra added. The employer values privacy above all else. You'll be required to sign extensive non-disclosure agreements, and contact with outside parties will be limited during your stay. Who exactly is the employer? Olivia asked. That information will be disclosed upon your arrival. I can only say he's a man of considerable means and influence. After hanging up, Olivia sat beside her sleeping sister, mind racing with possibilities and concerns. Whatever awaited them at this mysterious estate couldn't be more challenging than their current circumstances. For Emma, she would walk into the unknown. Little did she know that her decision would soon collide with Harrison Morgan's carefully orchestrated plans, forever altering both their lives and the fate of the legacy he was so desperate to preserve. The Morgan estate revealed itself gradually as the private car wound up the long, maple-lined drive. Olivia gazed through the window, Emma's head resting on her shoulder. The main house emerged like something from another era, a Georgian mansion of red brick and white columns, its windows gleaming in the afternoon sun. Is this real? Emma whispered, her eyes wide with wonder. Are we really going to live here? Olivia squeezed her sister's hand. Just remember, we're here to work. I'm here to work, she corrected herself. The car stopped not at the main entrance but curved around to a charming stone cottage, partially hidden by a grove of birch trees. A woman in a crisp blazer waited on the porch. "Ms. Winters? I'm Diane. Foster, Mr. Morgan's estate manager. Welcome to Evergreen." Olivia helped Emma from the car, acutely aware of how her sister's frame had thinned in recent months. "Thank you for accommodating us both, Ms. Foster." "Mr. Morgan is a man of solutions," Diane replied cryptically. "Let's get you settled. Tomorrow will be a busy day." The cottage exceeded all expectations. 2 bedrooms, a modern kitchen, and a living room with a stone fireplace. Emma's bedroom had been equipped with a hospital-grade bed and monitoring equipment. "A nurse will check on Miss Emma twice daily," Diane explained. "Dr. Reynolds will examine her tomorrow to establish baseline care requirements." "This is more than generous," Olivia managed, overwhelmed by the thought of Emma receiving such comprehensive care. "Mr. Morgan values efficiency. Your sister's well-being ensures your focus remains undivided." Diane's tone was matter-of-fact. "Now, regarding your duties, you'll oversee the household staff for the main residence only. The East Wing is strictly off-limits. It houses a confidential research project." "What kind of research?" Olivia asked. Diane's expression didn't change. "The kind protected by the non-disclosure agreement you signed. Your orientation begins at 7 tomorrow morning. I suggest you rest well." Left alone, Olivia unpacked their meager belongings while Emma slept. Through the cottage window, she could see lights illuminating the east wing of the main house. Something about this situation felt surreal, but the weight of Emma's medical bills had left her with few options. Whatever secrets Harrison Morgan kept, they couldn't be worse than watching her sister suffer without proper care. The following morning, Olivia reported to the main house, where she met the staff she would supervise. 4 housekeepers, 2 chefs, a gardening team, and maintenance personnel. The mansion's interior was a study in tasteful opulence. Antiques blended seamlessly with modern comforts, and every surface gleamed. "The staff quarters are here," Diane indicated on a detailed floor plan, "while Mr. Morgan's private suite occupies the west wing. The east wing," she pointed to a shaded area, "is accessible only to authorized personnel. Should someone from that wing request anything, you direct those requests to me." "Does Mr. Morgan often entertain guests?" Olivia asked, trying to anticipate her responsibilities. "Mr. Morgan rarely entertains. His focus is business, not social standing." Diane checked her watch. "He's requested to meet you before you begin. This way, please." They traversed long hallways adorned with museum-quality artwork until reaching a suite of offices. Diane knocked once before opening heavy double doors to reveal a spacious study. Floor-to-ceiling bookshelves lined one wall, while a massive desk dominated the space before windows overlooking immaculately landscaped grounds. The man standing at the window turned as they entered. Harrison Morgan was taller than Olivia had expected, with broad shoulders beneath a perfectly tailored suit. Silver threaded his dark hair at the temples, and his clean-shaven face bore the sharp angles of authority and privilege. His most striking feature, however, was his eyes, intense blue and calculating. "Ms. Winters," he said, his voice deep and controlled, "welcome to Evergreen." "Thank you for the opportunity, Mr. Morgan," Olivia replied, fighting the urge to fidget under his scrutiny. "And for accommodating my sister. Miss Foster informed me of your situation. Devotion to family is admirable." He moved to his desk, picking up a folder. "Your resume shows organizational skill, but limited experience with estates of this size." "I'm a quick learner," Olivia said, straightening her posture. Something like amusement flickered across his face. "Indeed. Tell me, what would you do if you encountered something unusual during your duties here? Something that might raise questions?" The question caught her off guard. "I'd remember that I signed a confidentiality agreement, sir." "A diplomatic answer." He closed the folder. "But what I require is discretion born of integrity, not merely contractual obligation." "My integrity isn't for sale, Mr. Morgan," Olivia responded, immediately regretting her boldness. "But my silence regarding your business is included in my salary." To her surprise, he smiled slightly. "Well put. You start immediately. Ms. Foster will provide all necessary details." As Diane led her out, Olivia glanced back to find Harrison Morgan watching her, his expression unreadable. Over the next few weeks, Olivia settled into her role. The work was demanding but straightforward. Each morning she reviewed the IG2 day's requirements with the staff, managed inventory and schedules, and ensured the estate ran smoothly. Her evenings belonged to Emma, whose condition showed subtle improvements under Dr. Reynolds' care. Despite Diane's warnings, Olivia couldn't help noticing the activity surrounding the East Wing. Several times daily, catering carts disappeared behind its closed doors. Medical equipment arrived regularly, and occasionally she glimpsed lab-coated individuals entering through a separate entrance. Most intriguing were the young women, 10 in total, who occasionally emerged for supervised walks through the gardens. Always accompanied by security personnel, they were uniformly beautiful, dressed in expensive leisure wear, and appeared to be in perfect health. Some showed early signs of pregnancy. One afternoon, while overseeing the delivery of fresh flowers, Olivia literally collided with one of these women as she rounded a corner. "I'm so sorry," Olivia steadied the woman, who appeared startled by the contact. "It's all right," the woman replied, her accent faintly southern. "I should watch where I'm going." She was strikingly beautiful, with auburn hair and intelligent green eyes. A security guard immediately stepped forward. "Miss Spencer, we should continue your walk." The woman, Ms. Spencer, glanced at Olivia's staff badge. "You work here in the main house?" "I manage the household staff," Olivia explained, noting the guard's growing discomfort. "How wonderful to meet someone new. I'm Catherine Spencer." She extended her hand. Before Olivia could respond, a familiar voice interrupted. "Miss Spencer, I believe you're scheduled for an ultrasound." Harrison Morgan approached, his expression pleasant but his eyes hard. Catherine's demeanor immediately changed. "Of course, Mr. Morgan, I lost track of time." She nodded politely to Olivia before allowing the guard to escort her away. When they were out of earshot, Harrison turned to Olivia. "The East Wing protocols exist for a reason, Ms. Winters. I didn't approach her, sir. It was an accidental meeting. Nevertheless, interactions with project participants are forbidden." His tone softened slightly. "How is your sister progressing?" The sudden shift caught Olivia off guard. "Better than expected. Dr. Reynolds has been incredible." "I'm pleased to hear it." He seemed genuinely interested. "She has a brilliant mind, your sister. Dr. Reynolds mentioned her aptitude for mathematics." "Emma has always seen patterns where others see chaos," Olivia acknowledged, surprised he knew such details. Harrison nodded thoughtfully. "Intelligence often manifests in unexpected ways. Good evening, Ms. Winters." As he walked away, Olivia realized it was the longest conversation they'd had since her arrival. Something about Harrison Morgan didn't align with the cold, calculating businessman everyone described. There were moments, brief glimpses, of something more complex beneath the surface. Later that night, Olivia researched Catherine Spencer online. According to social media, she was a biochemist from Georgia with multiple academic honors. Her profiles showed no activity for the past 2 months, precisely when she must have arrived at Evergreen. What was Project Legacy? Why were these accomplished? A women sequestered in the East Wing? And why did Harrison Morgan, reportedly a ruthless business titan, take personal interest in Emma's well-being? The questions multiplied, but Olivia reminded herself that curiosity was a luxury she couldn't afford. Emma's treatment came first. Still, as she checked on her sleeping sister, Olivia couldn't shake the feeling that she had stumbled into something far more consequential than a temporary job. Meanwhile, in his private study, Harrison reviewed the latest fertility protocols. His condition was progressing faster than anticipated, and time was running out. Project Legacy represented his only chance at fulfilling his ancestral promise, a promise he had never questioned until recently. He found himself thinking about Olivia Winters, with her straightforward manner and unwavering devotion to her sister. There was something refreshingly authentic about her, a quality none of his carefully selected candidates possessed, despite their genetic perfection. Harrison dismissed the thought. Project Legacy would proceed as planned. 10 genetically superior, Women would bear 10 potential heirs, ensuring the Morgan bloodline continued. Everything else, including unexpected distractions, was irrelevant, or so he told himself as the night deepened around Evergreen and unseen currents began shifting beneath its orderly surface. 3 months into her employment at Evergreen, Olivia had mastered the rhythm of the estate. Each morning began with staff meetings, followed by inventory reviews and coordination with vendors. The work kept her busy, which was exactly what she needed to avoid dwelling on the mysteries of the East Wing. Emma's health had improved dramatically under Dr. Reynolds' care. Regular treatments and proper nutrition had restored color to her cheeks, and for the first time in years, she could walk the gardens without exhaustion overtaking her. "Have you seen the way Dr. Reynolds looks at those test results?" Emma asked. One evening, as they shared dinner in their cottage, "It's like she's seeing a puzzle no one else can solve." Olivia smiled at her sister's perceptiveness. "She's thorough, that's why you're doing better." "It's more than that," Emma insisted. "Yesterday she asked me to solve these complex mathematical sequences, nothing to do with my condition. When I finished, she made a call and said something about cognitive potential and remarkable aptitude." Olivia paused, fork mid-air. "That does seem strange." "And Mr. Morgan visited again," Emma continued casually. "He brought me books on advanced mathematics and theoretical physics. We talked about fractals for an hour. Harrison Morgan came. Here, again." This was the 3rd visit in 2 weeks, unusual for a man who rarely interacted with staff. Emma nodded. "He's different than I expected. You said he was cold, but with me he's curious, engaged." Olivia thought of her own limited interactions with her employer. While always professional, he possessed an intensity that made her inexplicably aware of herself, her words, her movements, even her breathing. "Just be careful," Olivia cautioned. "Remember why we're here." "For my treatment," Emma agreed. "But Liv, I've never felt this alive. Dr. Reynolds says I might qualify for a research program at the Morgan Institute after my treatment, fully funded." Olivia's heart constricted. The opportunities would change Emma's life, but why the sudden interest in her sister? Was it genuine recognition of Emma's talents, or something else? The following week brought torrential rain. That kept everyone indoors. Olivia was completing paperwork in her small office when the door opened without a knock. Harrison Morgan stood in the doorway, his normally impeccable appearance slightly disheveled. "Ms. Winters," he said, his voice tense, "I need your assistance." She rose immediately. "Of course, sir." "The storm has flooded the East Wing's lower level. The maintenance team is occupied with electrical issues in the main house. I need discreet help relocating sensitive materials." Olivia hesitated. "The East Wing is off limits to me. I'm making an exception, unless you'd prefer I find someone else." The challenge in his tone was unmistakable. "No, I'll help. Let me get raincoats." They traversed the connecting corridor in silence, Harrison using a security card to access the restricted area. The East Wing's interior surprised Olivia, less clinical than she'd imagined, more like a luxury residential facility. The decor was tasteful, with comfortable lounges and what appeared to be private suites. "Through here," Harrison directed, leading her downstairs where water pooled at the bottom step. "The archive room. Everything needs to move to higher ground." They worked methodically, moving boxes of files and medical equipment. The documents were in sealed containers, but Olivia couldn't help noticing labels: genetic sequencing, embryonic development, maternal monitoring. "You're wondering what this is all about," Harrison said suddenly. Olivia looked up, caught off guard. "It's not my place to ask." "And yet you're curious." He set down a box and studied her. "What have you deduced about the East Wing, Ms. Winters?" She chose her words carefully. "It appears to be a reproductive medicine project. The women are participants or subjects." "Not subjects," he corrected sharply. "Candidates, partners in the most important undertaking of my life." "And what undertaking is that?" The question escaped before she could stop it. Harrison was silent for so long she thought he wouldn't answer. When he finally spoke, His voice held an unexpected vulnerability. Legacy continuation. I'm the last Morgan, Ms. Winters. In less than 3 months, I'll be incapable of fathering children. Project Legacy ensures my bloodline doesn't end with me. The revelation stunned her. So these women will carry Morgan heirs, genetically superior children born to mothers selected for intelligence, health, and fertility. Each compensated handsomely for their contribution. It sounds so clinical. Something flashed in his eyes. What would you suggest? A conventional marriage of convenience, pretending at emotions to accomplish a biological imperative? Is that what you think relationships are, pretending at emotions? I think sentiment clouds judgment, he replied. Project Legacy removes variables. It's reproducible, methodical, controlled. Children aren't products, Mr. Morgan. No, they're legacies. His voice hardened. My ancestors built something that has lasted generations. I won't be the one who lets it end. Before she could respond, his phone rang. The conversation was brief, but clearly concerning. I need to handle this, he said. Can you finish here? Of course. After he left, Olivia continued working, puzzling over what she'd learned. The project was essentially a high-tech breeding program designed to produce Morgan heirs, coldly efficient yet understandable given his diagnosis. What troubled her wasn't the science but the emotional void at its center. As she lifted the last box, a file slipped out. Instinctively, she knelt to retrieve it, glimpsing the header. Participant Psychological Assessment, Spencer, Catherine. Below were notes expressing concerns about attachment tendencies and emotional complications. A handwritten notation read, Monitor closely, potential compliance risk. Olivia quickly returned the document and completed her task, but the words lingered in her mind. These women weren't just genetic donors. They were people with feelings that apparently needed to be managed and controlled. That night, Olivia couldn't sleep. The rain continued, drumming against the cottage roof as Emma slept peacefully in the next room. Around midnight, Olivia pulled on a raincoat and stepped onto the porch, needing fresh air to clear her thoughts. A solitary figure stood in the garden, face tilted up to the rain. Harrison Morgan, without coat or umbrella, seemingly oblivious to the downpour. Something about his posture spoke of profound isolation. Without thinking, Olivia approached, extending her umbrella over him. You'll catch pneumonia, Mr. Morgan. He turned, startled from his reverie. Rain had plastered his hair to his forehead and soaked his shirt, rendering his customary armor of authority transparent. Ms. Winters, he acknowledged, making no move to escape the rain. Couldn't sleep. Too many thoughts, she admitted. You? The same. Water streamed down his face. The latest medical report confirms what we already knew. Time is running out faster than anticipated. Something in his expression, raw vulnerability, barely contained, moved her. I'm sorry. Are you? Most would say I'm getting exactly what I deserve. The ruthless billionaire undone by biology. I don't believe anyone deserves suffering, no matter their wealth or power. He studied her with that penetrating gaze. Your sister told me about your parents, the accident, how you gave up college to care for her. Olivia stiffened. Emma talks too much. She admires you tremendously. A ghost of a smile touched his lips. As do I. Your dedication, it's rare. It's not dedication when it's someone you love, it's just what you do. Is it? The question seemed genuinely perplexed. I've built an empire by leveraging advantage and eliminating weakness. Personal attachments have always seemed inefficient, and yet here you are, driven by attachment to a family legacy. His eyes widened slightly, as if this perspective had never occurred to him. The rain began to ease, leaving them in a strange bubble of intimacy beneath her umbrella. Would you have dinner with me tomorrow night, Ms. Winters? The question seemed to surprise even him. Dinner? A simple meal, two people conversing without hierarchy or agenda. Why? The directness of her question matched his own. Harrison considered before answering. Because you see things differently than I do, because your perspective interests me. Olivia knew she should refuse. The power imbalance alone made it inappropriate, not to mention the complications of Project Legacy. Yet something in his request felt genuine, perhaps the first genuinely human interaction he'd initiated. Just dinner, she clarified, not an employment obligation. Not an obligation, he agreed, then yes. The following evening, Olivia found herself in Harrison's private dining room, a space smaller and more intimate than she'd expected. No staff attended them. Harrison himself served the meal he'd apparently prepared. "You cook?" Olivia couldn't hide her surprise. "When I need to think," he replied, pouring wine. "Physical tasks free the mind." The conversation flowed unexpectedly easily. Harrison spoke of his childhood, privileged but lonely, shaped by expectations rather than affection. Olivia shared stories of growing up in a middle-class family where love compensated for material limitations. They discovered shared tastes in literature and music, and a mutual appreciation for direct honesty. "May I ask you something personal?" Harrison said as they finished dessert. "Why did you really accept this position? The isolation, the secrecy, most would find it suspicious." "Emma's treatment costs more than I could earn in 10 years, Olivia answered simply. "I didn't have the luxury of suspicion. And now? Knowing what you know about Project Legacy." She considered the question carefully. "I understand your motivation, even if I question your methods." "Which part troubles you most?" "The absence of emotion," she said finally. "These children will be born from contracts, not connection. Will they know love or just expectation?" Harrison's expression became contemplative. "I never considered that relevant. My own upbringing was functional rather than nurturing." "And did that serve you well?" "I built a $60 billion enterprise." That wasn't my question. Their eyes met across the table, and something shifted in the atmosphere between them. Harrison leaned forward slightly. "You're unlike anyone I've ever met, Olivia Winters. Because I ask uncomfortable questions? Because you see me, not the wealth, not the power, but me." His voice lowered. "Few people have ever done that." The vulnerability in his admission touched something in Olivia. Here was a man who commanded global industries, yet seemed fundamentally alone. For a moment she forgot their circumstances, employer and employee, billionaire and ordinary woman, and saw only a person reaching across a divide. When he walked her back to the cottage, the night air was heavy with unspoken possibilities. At her door, Harrison hesitated, then simply said, "Thank you for your honesty." "Always," she replied, meaning it. After he left, Olivia stood on the porch, watching his retreating figure and wondering what invisible boundary they had just crossed, and what consequences might follow when morning came. Over the next 2 weeks, something subtle yet undeniable shifted at Evergreen. Harrison Morgan began appearing in places he rarely frequented before. The kitchen during meal preparations, the gardens when Olivia supervised landscaping work, the main hall as she coordinated deliveries. Each encounter seemed coincidental, yet inevitable, leading to conversations that extended well beyond professional necessity. For Olivia, these interactions were simultaneously thrilling and dangerous. Harrison's intelligence and intensity drew her in, while his vulnerability, glimpsed in rare unguarded moments, touched something protective within her. Yet she couldn't forget who he was or what he represented: power, privilege, and a reproductive project that commodified the most intimate human experience. The evening of the spring equinox brought a violent thunderstorm that knocked out power to parts of the estate. Olivia worked alongside the maintenance team, coordinating emergency lighting and checking on staff. When she finally returned to her cottage, soaked and exhausted, she found Harrison waiting on her porch. "The powers." "Out in the East Wing," he explained, rain dripping from his coat. "Generators are maintaining critical systems, but the residential areas are affected. I came to check on Emma." "She's at her evening treatment with Dr. Reynolds," Olivia replied, unlocking the door. "Please come in." Inside, the cottage was warm and dimly lit by emergency lamps. Olivia moved automatically to make tea, conscious of Harrison's presence filling the small space. "You're trembling," he observed. "Just cold from the rain." Without a word, he removed his suit jacket and draped it over her shoulders. The gesture was simple yet intimate, his warmth enveloping her, his scent surrounding her. Their eyes met in the half-light, and the air between them seemed charged with unspoken possibilities. "I should go," he said, not moving. "Yes," she agreed, equally still. Neither could later recall who moved first. The kiss happened with the suddenness of lightning, illuminating everything in a moment of blinding clarity. Harrison's hands cradled her face with unexpected gentleness, while Olivia's fingers curled into the fabric of his shirt. When they finally broke apart, both seemed equally stunned by what had happened. "This is a complication I didn't anticipate," Harrison said, his voice rough with emotion. "Is that how you see it, a complication? Isn't it?" His eyes searched hers. "You work for me. I have responsibilities. To the project, to my family name. And I have Emma to consider," Olivia countered. "This is impossible." "Yes." His hands still held her, contradicting his words. "Completely impossible." The second kiss was slower, deeper, acknowledging what they both knew. Some boundaries, once crossed, could never be restored. The storm raged outside as they surrendered to a different kind of tempest, one neither had expected, but both had secretly longed for. Hours later, as they lay entwined in the darkness, Harrison traced patterns on Olivia's bare shoulder. "I've never lost control like this before," he confessed. "My entire life has been about maintaining perfect control." "Maybe that's why this happened," she suggested. "Even the most controlled systems need release." He smiled against her hair. "Is that what this was? A systematic pressure release?" "No," she said softly. "This was something else entirely." The intimacy of the moment, honest, unguarded, free from the constraints of their respective positions, felt more significant than the physical act they had shared. For perhaps the first time in his adult life, Harrison Morgan wasn't calculating advantage or managing outcomes. He was simply present, connected to another human being without agenda or expectation. Dawn found them reluctantly separating, reality reasserting itself with the morning light. Harrison needed to return to the main house before the staff began their morning routines. Standing at the door, he seemed caught between worlds, the controlled environment he had created and the unexpected emotion he had discovered. "This changes things," he said finally. "Does it?" Olivia challenged gently. "Or will you compartmentalize this, like everything else in your life?" His expression softened. "You deserve better than compartmentalization, Olivia. What I deserve is honesty, whatever this is, or isn't. Let's not pretend." He nodded, appreciating her directness. "No pretense, but discretion is necessary. You understand? The project, your legacy," she finished for him. "I understand." With one last kiss, he left, disappearing into the misty morning. Olivia watched him go, torn between elation and apprehension. What had started could not be undone, but where it would lead remained frighteningly unclear. Unbeknownst to either of them, their brief embrace on the cottage porch had been observed by Catherine Spencer during her early morning walk with security personnel. The sight had awakened something both hopeful and dangerous within her, evidence that Harrison Morgan was capable of genuine human connection. That afternoon, Catherine sat in Dr. Reynolds' office for her weekly psychological assessment. "And how are you feeling today, Mrs. Spencer?" Dr. Reynolds asked, tablet poised for notes. "Curious," Catherine replied carefully. "I've been thinking about what happens after, when the babies are born." Dr. Reynolds' expression remained neutral. "The agreements are clear. 3 years of maternal care, then transition to the Morgan educational system, with continuing maternal contact as appropriate." "As appropriate," Catherine repeated. "Determined by whom?" "The Project Oversight Committee, naturally. With Mr. Morgan's approval." Catherine nodded thoughtfully. "I saw him this morning with the household manager." Dr. Reynolds's fingers paused over her tablet. Ms. Winters, in what context? A personal one, I'd say. Catherine watched the doctor's reaction carefully. They seemed close. I see, Dr. Reynolds made a note. Thank you for sharing that observation. Later that day, Dr. Reynolds placed a call to Bradley Wells, Harrison's head of security. We may have a situation developing. Spencer is asking questions and observing interactions outside the project parameters. What kind of interactions? Bradley asked. Mr. Morgan and Olivia Winters. Apparently they've become involved. The silence on the line spoke volumes. I'll look into it. In the meantime, increase Spencer's monitoring. We can't afford emotional complications at this stage. For the next week, Harrison and Olivia maintained professional distance during daylight hours, their interactions carefully neutral. But nights belonged to them alone, stolen moments in the cottage or secluded corners of the estate where they discovered each other beyond their defined roles. In those private hours, Harrison revealed parts of himself long buried beneath the Morgan legacy. He spoke of his father's coldness, the crushing expectations of birthright, and the profound loneliness of power. Olivia shared her struggles after her parents' accident, the hard choices made for Emma's sake, and her deferred dreams of becoming a marine biologist. You never told me that, Harrison said, tracing the curve of her spine as they lay in her bed. About the ocean research. It doesn't seem relevant to household management, she replied with a smile. When Emma's treatment is complete, would you consider returning to school? I could arrange. Olivia placed a finger against his lips. I don't want arrangements. Harrison, whatever this is between us, it can't be about your resources solving my problems. He captured her hand, kissing her fingertips. You're the first person in years who's wanted nothing from me. That's not true, she corrected softly. I want you, just you, not what you can provide or protect or procure. The words seemed to unlock something within him. That night, their lovemaking carried a new intensity, less desperate, more profound. Afterward, Harrison held her close, his usual armor completely dissolved. I've been thinking about the project, he said quietly. About what you said. Children, needing connection, not just genetic perfection. Olivia's heart quickened. And I'm considering modifications to the protocols. More emphasis on emotional bonding, less on clinical outcomes. That would be a significant change. Yes. He hesitated. The latest medical assessment confirms what we feared. The condition has accelerated. I'm already essentially sterile. Olivia turned to face him fully. I'm sorry. The embryos were created in time. The project continues as planned. His fingers traced her cheek. But I find myself questioning the underlying premise. Which is? That legacy is purely biological. That what matters most is genetic continuation. His eyes searched hers. Perhaps true legacy is about influence, values, impact, not just DNA. The vulnerability in his admission moved her deeply. She kissed him softly, recognizing the profound shift in his thinking. Does Dr. Reynolds know about this philosophical evolution? She asked. Not yet. She's intensely focused on the project parameters. Any deviation concerns her. She's been spending a lot of time with Emma, Olivia mentioned, testing her mathematical abilities, discussing theoretical concepts. Harrison nodded. Emma's mind is extraordinary, raw, untrained, but capable of intuitive leaps most academics can't make. The Morgan Institute could nurture that talent. You've given that thought? I've given many things thought lately. His tone grew serious. Including us. What I feel for you is unprecedented in my experience, Olivia. It's changing how I see everything. The words hung between them, neither a declaration nor a promise, but something equally profound. Acknowledgement of transformation. Olivia felt both elated and terrified, knowing they were venturing into territory neither had mapped. What neither realized was that their private evolution was creating ripples throughout Evergreen. Bradley Wells had indeed investigated Dr. Reynolds' concerns and confirmed the relationship. Security footage from the estate grounds showed late-night meetings, intimate moments in the gardens, Harrison's regular visits to the cottage. More troubling to Bradley was the effect on Project Legacy. Harrison had begun requesting modifications to protocols, questioning established parameters, even suggesting reduced monitoring of the candidates. For a man who had previously demanded absolute control, these changes were alarming. "He's compromised," Bradley told Dr. Reynolds during their emergency meeting. "This relationship is affecting his judgment." "The timing couldn't be worse," Dr. Reynolds agreed. 3 of the candidates are approaching critical developmental milestones. Any disruption now could jeopardize outcomes. "There's more," Bradley said grimly. "Spencer has been asking questions about Olivia Winters, her background, her qualifications, her sister's treatment. I believe she suspects the relationship and is gathering information." "For what purpose?" "Leverage, perhaps, or simply disruption. Either way, we need to contain this situation before it threatens the entire project." Dr. Reynolds considered carefully. "We need to separate them. Create distance between Morgan and the Winters woman." "How? He's completely infatuated. Perhaps we need to remind Ms. Winters of her place here and the precariousness of her situation." Dr. Reynolds' expression hardened. "Have you found anything useful in her background check?" "Nothing significant. She's remarkably clean. No criminal history, good credit despite financial struggles, no questionable associations." "What about the sister? Emma?" Bradley's expression shifted. "That's more interesting. Her medical history shows experimental. Treatments 2 years ago at Northwell Research. Treatments that were later discontinued due to efficacy concerns. So she willingly enrolled her sister in questionable medical trials." "Desperate people make desperate choices, Doctor." Dr. Reynolds nodded slowly. "And now Emma is improving dramatically under our care. Care that would disappear if Olivia were no longer employed here." "Precisely." Bradley understood immediately. "We remind her what's at stake." "And we need to address Spencer's information gathering," Dr. Reynolds added. "Perhaps it's time to implement containment protocols." "You want to restrict her movements further? She's already one of our most valuable candidates, which makes her the most dangerous if she becomes non-compliant." Dr. Reynolds made a note on her tablet. "I'll handle Spencer. You deal with the Winters situation. We need to restore proper boundaries immediately." Neither spoke the deeper truth, that Project Legacy had always depended on Harrison Morgan's unwavering commitment to clinical detachment. His emotional awakening threatened the very foundation of what they had built. For the project to succeed, Olivia Winters had become an obstacle that needed to be removed. The next evening, Olivia returned to the cottage later than usual. A delivery issue had required her attention, delaying her dinner with Emma. As she approached, she noticed unfamiliar security personnel near the cottage, a deviation from normal protocols. Inside, she found Emma sitting tensely at the kitchen table, her face pale. "What's wrong?" Olivia asked immediately. "Dr. Reynolds came by," Emma said, her voice strained. She said my treatment program might need to be re-evaluated." "Re-evaluated? Why?" "She mentioned budget constraints, protocol adjustments." Emma looked up, eyes fearful. "She said my place here isn't guaranteed, that it depends on certain conditions being met." Olivia felt cold dread spreading through her. "What conditions?" "She didn't specify. But she said I should remind you of your contractual obligations and the importance of maintaining professional boundaries." Emma's voice dropped. "Liv, what's going on? Are they going to stop my treatment?" Before Olivia could answer, her phone chimed with a message from Harrison. "Need to speak. With you. My office. Now." The tone was unlike his recent communications, formal, commanding, reminiscent of their early interactions. Something had changed, and the knot in Olivia's stomach tightened as she realized the protected bubble they had created was about to burst. Olivia moved through the empty corridors of the main house, her footsteps echoing against marble floors. The usual staff had disappeared, another deviation from routine that heightened her apprehension. Harrison's office door stood ajar, spilling warm light into the darkened hallway. She found him standing at the window, his posture rigid, hands clasped behind his back, the stance she'd observed that first day, months ago, before everything changed. "You wanted to see me," she said, remaining near the door. Harrison turned, his expression unreadable. "Close the door, please." She complied, noting the formal distance in his tone. "Emma said Dr. Reynolds visited today. Something about re-evaluating her treatment." "That wasn't my directive," he replied, surprising her. "I've just been informed of several unauthorized decisions made by my staff regarding your sister's care." "Unauthorized? Then why?" "Because certain people believe our relationship compromises Project Legacy." He moved toward his desk, maintaining space between them. "Bradley and Dr. Reynolds presented me with evidence of our interactions. They're concerned I've lost objectivity." "And have you?" Olivia challenged, finding strength in directness. Harrison's composure wavered slightly. "My feelings for you are real, Olivia, but my responsibilities extend beyond personal desires. Responsibilities to a project that treats women like breeding stock and children like products?" His jaw tightened. "That's unfair. These women are volunteers, generously compensated. The children will have every advantage, except emotional connection to their father." Olivia took a step forward. "You've felt it yourself, Harrison. How your own upbringing left you emotionally stunted. Would you impose that same coldness on your children?" "I'm trying to guarantee their future," he insisted. "My legacy." "Is that what we're really talking about? Your legacy? Or is it your fear?" Harrison stilled. "What fear?" "Of genuine human connection. Of caring for someone who can't be controlled by contracts or compensation." Olivia's voice softened. "Of being vulnerable enough to love." The word hung between them, love, unuttered until this moment. Harrison's expression shifted, the carefully maintained facade cracking. Before he could respond, the door opened without a knock. Bradley Wells entered, his face grim. "Sir, we have a situation with candidate Spencer. She's become non-compliant, demanding to speak with you directly." Harrison's focus immediately shifted. "What happened?" "She discovered certain modifications to her medication. Apparently she's been analyzing her daily supplements and found sedatives that weren't disclosed." "Sedatives?" Harrison's voice sharpened. "Who authorized medication changes?" Bradley glanced uncomfortably at Olivia. "Perhaps we should discuss this privately." "Ms. Winters stays," Harrison commanded. "Answer the question." Dr. Reynolds implemented a standardized calming protocol for all candidates, showing signs of emotional instability. Spencer's questioning about the project and her observations of estate activities flagged her for additional monitoring. "Observations of what activities specifically?" Harrison pressed. Bradley hesitated. "Your interactions with Ms. Winters, sir." Spencer witnessed several encounters. Olivia felt heat rise in her cheeks, but Harrison's expression darkened dangerously. "You've been sedating women without my approval based on their observations of my personal life?" "The project protocols allow for medication adjustments to maintain optimal conditions," Bradley explained defensively. "Dr. Reynolds deemed it necessary, given Spencer's increasing curiosity and your distraction." "Where is Catherine now?" Harrison demanded. "In the medical suite. Dr. Reynolds is attempting to administer a stronger sedative to prevent further disruption." Harrison moved instantly, striding toward the door. "This ends now." Olivia followed as he marched through the East Wing corridors, security personnel scrambling to keep pace. They reached the medical suite to find Dr. Reynolds arguing with Catherine Spencer, who stood defiantly beside an examination table. "I want to know exactly what you've been giving me," Catherine was saying, her voice steady despite her evident anger, "and why you've been surveilling my every movement." "Ms. Spencer, these are standard monitoring procedures," Dr. Reynolds replied soothingly, a syringe discreetly positioned in her hand. "Your emotional state affects fetal development. We're simply ensuring optimal conditions." "By drugging me without consent, that wasn't in my contract." Catherine's gaze shifted as Harrison entered. "Mr. Morgan, perfect timing. I was just discovering how your staff interprets comprehensive care." Dr. Reynolds turned, momentarily flustered. Mr. Morgan, I'm handling a minor compliance issue. There's no need for your direct involvement. Drugging project participants without their knowledge or my authorization goes well beyond a minor issue, Doctor. Harrison's voice was dangerously quiet. Put down the syringe, now. The atmosphere crackled with tension as Dr. Reynolds slowly complied. Everything I've done has been to protect Project Legacy. To protect your legacy, Mr. Morgan. By violating basic medical ethics, Harrison countered. By manipulating women who trusted us with their bodies and futures. You trusted me to ensure success, Dr. Reynolds argued. When you became emotionally compromised, someone had to maintain project integrity. Harrison's gaze hardened. What else have you done without my knowledge, Doctor? A flicker of unease crossed Dr. Reynolds' face. Only what was necessary. The Morgan bloodline must continue. You said so yourself. Legacy at any cost. Not at this cost. Harrison turned to Catherine. Mrs. Spencer, you have my sincere apologies. If you wish to withdraw from the project, we can discuss terms immediately. Catherine studied him carefully. What about the others? Are they all being sedated too? I intend to find out, Harrison assured her, turning to Bradley. Gather all project staff and participants in the main conference room, immediately. As Bradley left to comply, Dr. Reynolds made one last attempt. You're making a terrible mistake. These women need careful management to produce optimal outcomes. The Morgan legacy is more than genetics, Harrison interrupted firmly. A lesson I've recently learned. His gaze shifted briefly to Olivia, before returning to the doctor. And it appears I've put too much trust in the wrong people. The following hour brought revelations that shook Evergreen to its foundations. In the conference room, with all 10 project participants present alongside key staff members, Harrison uncovered the extent of the deception. Dr. Reynolds had implemented compliance protocols that included undisclosed medications, psychological manipulation, and surveillance far beyond what contracts permitted. More disturbing still was the discovery that candidate selection had been compromised. One woman, Melissa Taylor, broke down in tears, confessing that her supposed genetic superiority was manufactured. Her actual fertility issues had been concealed by Dr. Reynolds, who had promised treatment in exchange for participation. I just wanted a chance to have a child of my own, Melissa explained, her voice breaking. Dr. Reynolds said this was my only option, that the hormonal treatments here could overcome my condition. Harrison's expression darkened with each new revelation. This project was meant to continue my family line with integrity and transparency. Instead, it's become something unrecognizable. He addressed the women directly, his customary armor of authority completely shed. You all entered this arrangement in good faith, and that faith has been violated. For that, I am profoundly sorry. Whatever you choose going forward, to continue under completely revised protocols or to withdraw entirely, you will receive full compensation and any medical care you need. The room fell silent as the magnitude of his offer registered. Millions of dollars, offered without conditions. It was unprecedented. Catherine Spencer was the first to speak. I didn't enter this project just for the money, Mr. Morgan. I believed in creating something meaningful, a child who would have every advantage. But not like this. Not through deception and control. Others nodded in agreement. The atmosphere shifted from tension to something more complex. Disappointment mingled with cautious hope for resolution. We'll speak with each of you individually, Harrison promised. But first, I need to address the leadership failures that allowed this situation to develop. He turned to Dr. Reynolds and Bradley. You're both relieved of your duties, effective immediately. Security will escort you from the premises after. You've provided all access codes and relevant documentation. Dr. Reynolds paled. You can't do this. The project needs... What it needs is ethical oversight and transparent protocols, Harrison interrupted, neither of which you've demonstrated. As security personnel led them away, Harrison addressed the remaining staff. Project Legacy is suspended pending complete review. All participants will continue receiving proper care while we determine next steps. The meeting dispersed, leaving Harrison, Olivia, and Catherine alone in the conference room. "You knew something was wrong," Harrison said to Catherine. "That's why you were asking questions." She nodded. "The medications made me feel detached, not like myself. When I started reducing my doses, I became more aware of the monitoring, the manipulation. Then I saw you with Olivia." She glanced between them. "It was the first genuine human connection I'd witnessed here. It gave me hope that maybe you weren't the cold automaton we'd been told to expect." Harrison absorbed this quietly. "Thank you for your courage, Mrs. Spencer. Rest assured you'll be treated with the respect you deserve going forward." After Catherine left, Harrison finally turned to Olivia, the weight of everything evident in his posture. "I've made catastrophic misjudgments," he admitted, "allowing my obsession with legacy to blind me to the human cost." "You recognized it before it was too late," Olivia offered gently. "That counts for something." "Does it?" His voice held genuine uncertainty. 10 women's lives disrupted, trust violated, all because I couldn't face my mortality without trying to control the uncontrollable. "What will you do now?" she asked. "With the project?" Harrison moved to the window, gazing out at the estate grounds. Complete transparency, independent. Ethics oversight, genuine choice for all participants. He turned back to her. "But first I need to address what happened with Emma." "Dr. Reynolds threatened her treatment," Olivia confirmed, anxiety returning. "It won't happen again," Harrison promised. "In fact, I'd like to expand her care. The Morgan Institute has resources that could help her achieve her full potential, if that's what she wants." "Why would you do that? After everything that's happened?" "Because it's the right thing to do." He took a tentative step toward her. "And because, despite my many flaws, you've shown me what truly matters. Not genetic, legacies or dynastic continuations, but human connections, real ones. The gap between them, employer and employee, billionaire and ordinary woman, suddenly seemed both vast and insignificant." "I don't know what happens next, Olivia. This project might condition us. Everything is in flux. But I do know one thing with absolute certainty." "What's that?" she asked softly. "That whatever legacy I leave, I want it built on truth, not manipulation, on genuine care, not contractual obligation." His eyes held hers. "You showed me that distinction. It may have cost me Project Legacy as originally conceived, but it saved me from becoming something I would despise." Olivia crossed the remaining distance between them, taking his hands in hers. "Perhaps some legacies aren't planned. Perhaps they grow naturally from how we treat others, how we face challenges, how we love." Harrison's expression softened at the word. "Love," he repeated quietly, a concept notably absent from the project protocols. "Yet essential to any meaningful legacy," she suggested. "Essential," he agreed, drawing her closer. "And worth fighting. Forti seu." 6 months later, Evergreen had transformed. Project Legacy continued, but under radically different parameters. An independent ethics board oversaw all medical decisions. Participants could withdraw without penalty at any stage. Most significantly, Harrison himself had shifted from clinical detachment to genuine involvement, regularly meeting with each woman, learning about their hopes and concerns. 5 of the original 10 participants had chosen to continue. The others had withdrawn with generous settlements and continued medical support. Catherine Spencer had stayed, emerging as a natural leader among the group and a valuable advisor on project reforms. Melissa Taylor, whose fertility issues had been concealed, received specialized treatment from the world's leading reproductive specialists, funded entirely by Harrison, but with no obligation to remain in the project. Against all odds, she was now expecting twins. Emma's health continued improving under an expanded treatment protocol. Her mathematical abilities had earned her a place in a specialized program at the Morgan Institute, where she worked part-time while completing her education. As for Harrison and Olivia, they had navigated the complex territory of their relationship with the same honesty that had drawn them together. Harrison had offered her independence, a separate home, financial security, freedom to pursue her dreams without obligation to him. Instead, She had chosen to remain at Evergreen, not as an employee, but as his partner, helping reshape both the project and his perspective on legacy. On a crisp autumn evening, they walked the estate grounds together, planning the nursery that would soon welcome the first Project Legacy children. The developmental psychologists suggest natural materials, soft textures, Olivia explained. Everything designed to foster emotional connection from the earliest moments. Harrison nodded, his hand warm in hers. So different from what I originally envisioned. Cold efficiency, programmed excellence. Are you disappointed, she asked, that the project evolved so far from your original vision? Quite the opposite. He stopped walking, turning to face her fully. I set out to continue the Morgan bloodline at any cost. What I've found instead is something my ancestors never mentioned in their lofty directives about legacy. What's that? That true legacy isn't just what you leave behind. It's how you live, the connections you forge, the love you give and receive. His hand moved to rest gently on her abdomen, where their child, conceived naturally during those early storm-swept nights of discovery, grew steadily. It's this. The pregnancy had been confirmed just weeks after Project Legacy's restructuring, a development that shocked them both, given Harrison's diagnosis. The medical team had no explanation beyond the possibility that his condition had temporarily improved during those crucial weeks, allowing for what they termed a statistical improbability. A statistical improbability, Olivia often said with a smile. Now, as sunset painted Evergreen in golden light, Harrison knelt before her, producing a small velvet box. I had a speech prepared, he admitted. Something eloquent about transformation and fate. But ultimately it comes down to this. I love you, Olivia Winters. You changed everything. My project, my perspective, my heart. Will you marry me? Tears blurred her vision as she nodded. Yes, yes, to all of it. As he slipped the ring onto her finger, not a flashy declaration of wealth, but an elegant design that suited her perfectly, Olivia reflected on the extraordinary journey that had brought them here. From employer and employee to lovers to partners, creating a new kind of legacy together. 6 weeks later, the first Project Legacy baby was born. Catherine Spencer's daughter, a healthy, alert infant who gazed at the world with curious eyes. Unlike the clinical, controlled birth Harrison had originally planned, this delivery was surrounded by emotion, support, and genuine connection. When Harrison held the newborn, something profound shifted in his expression. This wasn't merely a continuation of Morgan DNA, but a unique human being with limitless potential. As he returned the baby to Catherine's waiting arms, he understood finally what Olivia had tried to tell him months ago. Legacy wasn't something engineered, but something nurtured. The true revelation came 3 months later when Olivia gave birth to their son. The moment the child was placed in Harrison's arms, the boy opened his eyes and seemed to recognize him instantly. A small hand reached up, grasping Harrison's finger with surprising strength. "He knows you," Olivia said softly from her hospital bed. "How is that possible?" Harrison whispered, awestruck by the immediate connection. "Because he felt your voice, your presence, your love throughout the pregnancy," she explained. "That's what creates bonds, Harrison. Not genetic algorithms or careful selection, but presence, involvement, love." As their son grew alongside the Project Legacy children, the differences were subtle but significant. All the babies were healthy, beautiful, and developmentally advanced. But the children whose mothers had experienced genuine connection and emotional security during pregnancy showed markedly stronger social responses, greater ease with attachment, and more resilient emotional regulation. The research findings transformed the project once again. What had begun as a cold exercise in genetic continuation evolved into groundbreaking research on prenatal emotional development, research that would eventually help thousands of families beyond the Morgan estate. On their son's first birthday, Harrison gathered all the Project Legacy families in Evergreen's gardens. Standing with Olivia and their child, he addressed the assembled group. No longer candidates and staff, but a community united by extraordinary circumstances. 1 year ago, I believed legacy was about continuation, the Morgan name persisting through carefully selected genetics. Today, I understand that true legacy lies in impact, in connections, in lives touched and transformed. He gestured to the children playing on blankets spread across the lawn. These remarkable children represent not just the future of one family, but a new understanding of what matters in human development. Not just genetic potential, but emotional nurturing. Not just intelligence, but connection. Harrison's gaze found Olivia's, his expression open and unguarded. I set out to create heirs but found something far more valuable, a family, not defined by contracts or compensation, but by genuine bonds that can neither be engineered nor controlled. As he finished speaking, their son took his first, unsteady steps, toddling from Olivia toward Harrison with arms outstretched and a brilliant smile lighting his face. It was, everyone agreed later, the perfect symbol of the journey they had all taken, uncertain, challenging, but ultimately leading toward connection rather than control, love rather than legacy, humanity rather than perfection. And as Harrison lifted his son into his arms, surrounded by the unconventional family they had all become, he finally understood that the most precious legacy wasn't stored in DNA or trust funds or family names. It lived in moments like these, imperfect, unplanned, and infinitely more valuable than anything he could have engineered. Did the story of Harrison and Olivia touch your heart? If you enjoyed this emotional journey of love and transformation, please subscribe to our channel for more captivating narratives that explore the complexities of human connection. Hit that like button and share your thoughts in the comments below. Every week,